Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of St. Louis. I'm the Reverend Sabrina, and I use they, them pronouns. I serve the congregation as the minister of congregational life. If you're a visitor or a newcomer, we would like to extend a special welcome. We are glad to be together this Sunday, whether in person or online. And if you're new to our congregation, be sure to fill out a community card found in the pews, or if you are online, click on the link in the live stream description. And after service, if you're here, please join us downstairs in Fellowship Hall for coffee and donuts. We welcome families with, with children. Families with children are invited to connect with the RE committee. Are there anybody of the RE committee? Yeah, with Sarah at the RE committee, or me after service for more information about our program. If you're attending online, you can connect with each other in the chat, and don't forget that the link for virtual coffee hour can be found in your weekly e-news. We have a few announcements this morning. Today's monthly coffee hour social justice opportunity is To Immigrants with Love. During coffee hour, share the love by filling out Valentine's Day postcard for local immigrants, and there are also images for you to share on your social media apps, expressing your love and support for immigrants in our country and our community. Today is also a sandwich making Sunday, where we pack bagged lunches for the unhoused of Gateway 180. Join Sam Hunt and the senior youth in Fellowship Hall. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., join me and Reverend Kim at the Rally to Bridge Faith and Justice, again at 10 a.m., at the foot of the MLK Bridge. Organizers recommend using public transportation. Also, be part of setting our congregational goals. Join the strategic brainstorming session online Monday, February 16th. That's tomorrow, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. if you missed the midwinter meeting that was in January. How do we answer when someone asks us what's Unitarian Universalism? Is there a way to practice being you? Are there specific rituals or beliefs? If you're curious about any or all of this, join us in UU 101, an introductory class on the thought and story of our faith tradition. This is on Thursday, February 19th, this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. online or in person. If you get the e-news, you can see your e-news for registration link, or you can ask me after service or just show up. And most importantly, Friday, February 27th, from 5:30 till 7 p.m., the Unfished Fry crew serves an all-vegetarian meal open to the public. And we need your help to pull off this fundraiser, F-U-N fundraiser. Sign up to help in Fellowship Hall. And now please center yourself in preparation for worship. Good morning, it's me again. Welcome to this religious community where we affirm the worth and dignity of all who enter. We gather in community understanding we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, identity, and theology.
Not going to be graphic or use explicit language, but we are going to be candid and forthright about topics such as sexuality education, consent, and bodily autonomy. So please take care of yourselves as you need with these sensitive topics. We enter into worship with words by the Reverend Elizabeth Barish Brown. The right to choose. To begin, to start, to create, to undertake, to grow, to promise, to increase, to generate, all these are our birthright. As we are created, so too may we create. The ability and the choice to create is sacred. To withdraw that chance from any person without their permission would be a violent act, the cutting off of life itself. A single powerful red, orange flame glows in the darkness around it. And yet, as precious is the right to simply not, to end, to terminate, to stop, to discontinue, to rest, to hibernate, to impede, to prevent. These too are our birthright. For without consent, our ability to create becomes not a blessing, but a burden and an imposition. Without space for a no, there can be no trustworthy yes. Today, we come to this holy place and time ready to invoke the divine, to make space for the sacred, to co-create community once again. This, too, is a choice. You cannot, you may not be coerced into relationship with the holy or one another. Thus, we invite you. We ask you to join us. We respect you even if you do not, will not, today or ever. More sacred than any other individual need is choice. The right to know oneself, the right to know what you are ready for, what you need, to stretch when you can, to pause when you will, to know your body, your mind, and your spirit better than anyone else. And ultimately, to be trusted with the responsibility of your own living. Let us worship. Please rise as you are willing and able and join in our opening hymn of the month. Number 10, not our hymn of the month, just our opening hymn. Number 1053, How Could Anyone? Alan will play it once through and then we will sing it twice.
Each Sunday after we light the chalice, we sing a response, some original music from congregants, some from other artists, some from our hymnal. Beginning this month, we will sing a different song each Sunday of the month and the same songs each month. This is the third Sunday, and we are singing, after I say chalice lighting words, Be the Light, with words by Amanda Gorman and music by Leah Morris. So our chalice reading this morning is from activist and author Adrienne Marie Brown. Touch yourself early and often. Learn your body before you share your body. Use mirrors to learn how beautiful you are. Let yes come from every part of you before you share you. Whether voracious or sated, you are whole, unbroken. Be a lifelong lover of yourself. Let others join you. Always, always celebrate your miraculous body. So I was asked yesterday, there are no kids today in the sanctuary, so why do we have a connection moment? I want to ask you all this question. Why? Thank you, Sue. Because we're all connected. So we're doing a special service today, which is about sex. And so it's important to get to know each other for this worship service to make the space more welcoming, right? So I have an exercise that is right out of the parent orientation to middle school OWL. So I'll read some descriptions, and you either stand up or just raise your hand. And then look around to see if your answer is common or not. And then I'll say another one, and you do the same, and then we'll talk about it. So, how many of you grew up in this area? All right. How many of you? Text. Yes, text. How many have grandchildren? Oh, wow. Okay. Of you know someone who is gay, lesbian, or bisexual? Okay, yeah, good. How many know a transgender, queer, non-binary person? Yay. All right. Sexuality education at home? Like, not that many. Yeah, oh, yay. You can talk openly about your sexuality with either children or parents, depending on your age. Openly. All right. Okay. So how was this activity for you? Meh. Dwight didn't like it. Makes sense. Anyone else? Did you like it? Kathy liked it. Yes. Sue liked it. Okay, I feel now. Was it comfortable for those who didn't like it? Yeah, a little bit. I understand. Makes sense. What kind of an education you had, right? Did you notice something when people were raising hands? If you didn't raise the hand, how'd you feel? Uncomfortable? Did you like many people when there were many people raising your hand? Yeah, yeah, I know. Done this. Or there were just a few people raising their hand, and if so, how did that make you feel if you were one of the? No. Nope. No. Okay. Medium. Okay. So, like, I'm getting that the conclusion is that we're not feeling super comfortable talking about sex. You're not feeling super comfortable sharing. But, like, look, you're willing in this space made it feel better for all of you. Have you noticed? You feel a little bit more relaxed? We're all in the same boat? Okay. We're not singing anybody out at this point. We're just going to continue with the worship service. Thank you very much for indulging me.
We build resilience as a community when we are vulnerable with one another, when we share our joys and concerns. Now is the time in our service when we connect with one another by sharing our sorrows and worries. This week, we grieve with the people of Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia, Canada, in the aftermath of a school shooting. As we read the names aloud, Reverend Sabrina will light 9 candles, one for each victim and one for the shooter. Shanda Aviguana Durand, 39. Zoe Benoit, 12. Jennifer Jacobs, 39. Emmett Jacobs, 11. Takaria Lampert, 12. Abel Mwansa, 12. Ezekiel Schofield, 13. Kylie Smith, 12. May their memories be a catalyst for change. As we continue with the rest of our sorrows and concerns, you are invited forward at this time to drop a stone in the bowl for those things holding you down and blow bubbles as you return to your seat for those things holding you up. This week, in our congregation, we carry healing thoughts and worries for a friend's mom who suffered a devastating stroke this past week. We hold these concerns with tenderness and compassion. May they be lighter because they are shared. And as a community, we share our joys and celebrations with one another. We celebrate with Kathy Rausch on the welcome news that she will be welcoming a second grandchild to come soon. September? May. In May. Congratulations. We lift up these joys with gladness and celebration. May they be magnified because they are shared. With so many joys and concerns remaining unspoken in our hearts and minds. Please join me in a spirit of prayer and mindful attention with words from the Reverend Seth Carrier-Ladd. Spirit of life and love, holy within and among us, may we find appreciation today and in our lives for our embodiment. We are physical creatures, mind, spirit, soul, housed within our bodies. These bodies, our physical form, allow us to experience the world. Taste chocolate chip cookies fresh from the oven. Touch the warmth and smoothness of a baby's skin. Sight the blossoming colors of sunrise and sunset. Sound the laughter of friends and family. Smell the aroma of fresh baked bread. In particular, today, may we find gratitude for our sexuality. May we be grateful and appreciate our gender identity, our sexual orientation, our physical selves. May we appreciate the pleasure, the intimacy, the connection that comes with and is a part of our sexuality. May we also remember that for many, sexuality can bring a variety of emotions: shame, sadness, trauma, anger, pain, hurt. For all the joy and goodness that embodiment brings, it also has its challenges. Aching joints, health conditions, severe illness, and more. Today, as we honor the whole of ourselves, we also honor the whole spectrum of sexual experience, holding the joys in all their richness and the sorrows in all their fullness of our hearts. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
We have one reading today. It comes from a book called Out of the Ordinary by Gordon McKeeman, and it might surprise you to know that this was written a long time ago. In many realms, there are people working diligently to conceal the truth, to mask the truth by speaking only a part of it, or to persuade that the truth is not being perceived correctly and putting a spin on it to assist in the truth-seeking process. One result of this outpouring of these exaggerated claims, distorted information, and untruth is that communication becomes much more difficult and the truth of what one is told is seriously eroded. In the old fable, the boy who cried wolf when no wolf was present was deprived of his own safety because those who might have saved him didn't believe his cry of wolf when a real wolf appeared. The obverse side of this coin is the responsibility of the hearer to be willing to receive a truthful message. Much hot air arises from the assumption that a listener cannot stand to hear the truth in its plain, unvarnished form. And so, unpleasant reality is often concealed lest the hearers be upset. Hearers, however, are often doubly disturbed upon discovering the unpleasant truth, and in addition, the deception involved in hiding it. And now, in lieu of a second reading, we have a video about tea drinking.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they go, "Oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you." Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, "Yes, please. That's kind of you." And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time that it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind. And you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea. And they can't answer the question, "Do you want tea?" because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea. And they said yes. But in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down. Make sure the unconscious person is safe. And this is the important part again. Don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they're safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it going, "But you wanted tea last week." Or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, "But you wanted tea last night." If you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you're able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand it when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea.
The First Unitarian Church of St. Louis strives to be a welcoming congregation, inspiring lives of loving kindness and integrity by nurturing spirituality, building community, and advancing justice. Your contributions support the ministry and mission of this congregation in the St. Louis region and beyond. Now, this morning's offertory was originally planned as a duet between Pam Geppert and Tom Finan. Unfortunately, both are down with the plague that is circulating, and so we are playing a recording. As this is copyrighted material and critical to the theme of this service, we are showing it here in the sanctuary. For those of you who are watching online, the link is in the description, and you can watch it that way so that we don't have to get in trouble with the copyright gods. And so our description, to give you some context, "Baby, It's Cold Outside" was first written in 1944. Our understandings of coercion and consent have advanced since then. And so artists John Legend and Kelly Clarkson have rewritten the song with updated lyrics. Enjoy. Oh, and this morning's offering will now be received.
Oh my goodness. There's a message on the computer. Anyway, thank you all for your gifts of time, talent, and treasure. And I want to give a specific shout out to OWL teachers who are in room C8 currently teaching OWL. Thank you.
I was having lunch with a group of clergy just last week, and one of them said, "There are two things that we don't talk about at church. One is sex, and the other is money. Don't worry, we'll talk about money next month." Which means today we're going to talk about sex. We're not going to be graphic or explicit, but we are going to be candid and forthright and talk specifically about sexuality education, consent, bodily autonomy, and current events. We recognize that people have a wide range of history and experiences. So take care of yourselves as you need during this conversation. Ready? That particular song came out in 1991. Now, most people just catch the chorus, "Let's talk about sex," and never realize that this hip-hop anthem is a safe sex manifesto. It talks about positive and negative aspects of sex, the value of healthy relationships, and the importance of protection against both pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections, all while making you want to dance. I do think that this should be the theme song for Our Whole Lives Sexuality Education. Our Whole Lives, abbreviated as OWL, launched in 1999, and it is a comprehensive age-appropriate sexuality education program created through collaboration between the Unitarian Universalist Association and the United Church of Christ. It begins with teaching early elementary age children the proper names for body parts and concepts such as good touch, bad touch. It teaches middle schoolers about bodies, relationships, and sex, heterosexual and queer, and goes all the way through older adulthood with topics such as sex and aging. Underpinning all is the opportunity to ask questions without shame and get factual answers. The goal of the program is to teach students that bodies, sex, and sexuality are healthy and normal parts of being human. OWL is rooted in a set of assumptions about sexuality education. Human beings begin developing genitals and reproductive organs in utero and need to continue to care for them throughout their lives. Sexuality is a good part of the human experience. Sexuality includes more than just sexual behavior. It also includes physical changes, gender identity, feelings and thoughts about bodies and relationships, and social interactions. Sexuality affects human beings throughout the lifespan. It is natural to express sexual feelings in a variety of ways. People engage in healthy sexual behavior for a variety of reasons, including expressing caring and love, to express intimacy and connection with another, to share pleasure, to bring new life into the world, and to have fun and relax. Sexuality in our society is damaged by violence, exploitation, alienation, dishonesty, abuse of power, and the treatment of persons as objects. We teach our sexuality education our whole lives at church because where else but church would you have conversations about values-based decisions, like how you show care and affection for others, and how you embrace and celebrate differences?
At 10 o'clock this morning, as we were convening here and starting the worship service, about 13, actually 12, one is missing today, middle school kids were also assembling in room C8, the first one on the right as you exit the sanctuary, to attend the fourth installment of Our Whole Life for middle school students. I know Reverend Kim has said that where else but church would we talk about these things, but have you asked yourself why would not one but two progressive faith traditions support teaching sexuality education in a religious context? This is not simply to counteract the religious right message that sex is bad. It is that too, but this 26 workshop course on human sexuality goes beyond the mechanics and anatomy and teaches our kids about consent and bodily autonomy and body image and how to communicate with their partners, among other things. It teaches them how sexuality encompasses all aspects of life through the circles of sexuality. Okay. So this image is the same as the poster that the kids in room C8 have. They're probably using it today. They use it every Sunday. And today, the kids are talking about body image. And so I'm going to show you as an example how we use the circles of sexuality in the context of body image. So we start at the top with sensuality. You can hopefully read what sensuality comprises, but it's our level of awareness, acceptance, and enjoyment of our own and other people's bodies. And body image obviously has to do with that, accepting our bodies and enjoying them or not, depending on our body image. It also has to do with the next circle, intimacy, because in there are trust and reciprocity, risk-taking, and vulnerability, and body image definitely has something to do with trust and risk-taking, doesn't it? Sexual identity is how we are perceived or we perceived ourselves, and it does intersect with body image. Sexual health and reproduction is that one circle that coincides with what is taught in school, more or less. And you can see in the schools there isn't a lot of room to discuss body image, but body image would determine how each of us thinks about things like sexually transmitted infections and contraception, and it also intersects with risk-taking, etc. And finally, we come to the last circle, sexualization. which is the use of sexuality to influence, control, and or manipulate. Body image is affected by sexualization, which is something that happens in society and individuals. It's important to think about that as not just as our own individual circles, but also how things are viewed out there. So you see how breaking down topics into circles of sexuality can be useful, and how it teaches children, but also adults, how sexuality affects all aspects of our lives. But if you see in the middle, there is the word values, and that is what underpins all the circles. That is the most important thing about the circles of sexuality. That is the thing that all of us who facilitate OWL hope can have an effect in changing the world. This is where faith comes in. This is why we teach OWL as part of religious education, just like we do coming of age or spirit play or bridging, because it supports our values, and because especially for UUs, our values are what we promise one another. We are people of covenant, of promise. And consent and bodily autonomy come from promising each other protection from exploitation, cultivating compassion, honoring the worth and dignity of all beings, affirming that all people, regardless of race, age, ability, gender, and sexual orientation, have value and have the right to joy and delight. And the program states, as Reverend Kim just said, that sexuality in our society is damaged by violence, exploitation, alienation, dishonesty, abuse of power, and the treatment of people as objects. And as such, sexuality education is not neutral. It is a political stance. Not just because it teaches children to make good choices. It is not about that, not entirely, although it is about children, about giving them the tools to say no to being exploited, but that's what the younger OWL levels are for, bodily autonomy and consent. But it is about our values.
In a culture where sex is a commodity used to sell everything from food and clothing to television and movies and, well, sex itself, a curriculum that teaches how to have healthy relationships, healthy bodies, healthy emotions, and healthy sex is inherently political. Our whole lives is a comprehensive, age-appropriate sexuality education, and as such, teaches that the number one most important thing when it comes to sex is bodily autonomy. Bodily autonomy is the fundamental right to control one's own body, to make choices without coercion, violence, or government restrictions. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm that each person has bodily autonomy as an extension of our understanding of each individual's inherent worth and dignity. In a country where 21 states restrict access to abortion in some form, bodily autonomy is a radical notion. In a country where medical science was advanced on the bodies of Black and brown people, bodily autonomy is a radical notion. In a country where gender-affirming care is under attack on the local and federal level, bodily autonomy is a radical notion. In a country where the bodies of enslaved Black, brown, and indigenous women were controlled through sexual violence, where decisions about whether or not to have children were taken away from them through forced pregnancy or forced sterilization, bodily autonomy is a radical notion. Missouri has been at the center of our national debate on bodily autonomy by banning both abortion and gender-affirming care. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm that all bodies are sacred, and we have the right to determine whether or not to bear children, whether or not to make our bodies reflect our truth. As such, UUs support the right to access abortion services and gender-affirming care. Additionally, we understand abortion access as just one aspect within the larger framework of reproductive justice. The term reproductive justice was first coined in 1994 by Sister Song, a woman of color collective, quote, working to ensure individuals have the social, political, and economic power to make decisions about their bodies, sexuality, and families. It centers on three core pillars: the right to have children, the right not to have children, and the right to parent children in safe, sustainable communities. Moving beyond the confines of simply access to birth control and abortion, reproductive justice is, quote, crucial for addressing disparities in maternal mortality, protecting bodily autonomy for marginalized groups, and ensuring that decisions are not limited by income, race, or immigration status. Allowing people to make decisions about whether or not to get pregnant, whether or not to carry a pregnancy, is about education, consent, and control. When legislators ban books that inform children, youth, and adults about their own bodies and reproduction, they are not only removing access to important health education, they're leaving children, youth, and adults vulnerable to exploitation and violence. When children and youth are raised without proper education, without information about boundaries and consent, then dysfunction, negative sexualization, and abuse can be normalized. We want our children to grow up and have healthy and fulfilling sex lives, which is one of our pleasures as human beings. Bodily autonomy is a form of liberation. We have the right to feel good and safe and joyful in our bodies. Bodily autonomy requires consent and control over our own bodies. It says that not only do people get to choose what happens to their bodies, but that others have to get consent before they do something to your body. In OWL, the middle schoolers are taught about enthusiastic consent, not just, sure, fine, whatever, but, OMG, yes, I want that. Tea sounds great. I really like the tea video that we showed earlier. It breaks down consent with such easy to understand scenarios. But despite its clear guidelines, it doesn't address the fact that underage people cannot give consent. And here is where we come to the part of the morning where we talk about Epstein. It is easy to look at Epstein and see him as an aberration, a wealthy man who is protected by powerful friends. But Epstein is also a story of how many people knew that underage girls were being recruited for sex, about how many times his victims told people what happened to them and were dismissed, blamed, or flat out disbelieved. In the old fable, writes Gordon McKeeman, the boy who cried woof when no wolf was present was deprived of his own safety because those who might have saved him didn't believe his cry of woof. when a real wolf appeared. The obverse sign of this responsibility of the hearer is to be willing to receive a truthful message. No matter how much work we have done as a culture around consent, people look at the photos of the girls that Epstein abused and see women. They call them women. And the irony of blocking out the faces of Epstein's victims in the photos is that all we see is their bodies, which is all Epstein saw too. Epstein didn't see them as people, he saw them as property to be used and discarded. And when we don't see their faces, it is that much easier to ignore just how young they were. And let's not forget that we live in a culture where girls are sexualized from a very young age, and women have bodily autonomy by law, but not always in practice. This is why comprehensive, age-appropriate sexuality education is not neutral. And you know what else is ironic? That conservatives were so incensed by Bad Bunny headlining the Super Bowl halftime show that they sponsored an alternative halftime show headlined by Kid Rock, an artist with a song glorifying and promoting sex with underage girls.
So yeah, let's unpack that. The halftime shows last Sunday, Bad Bunny and Kid Rock, and what this has to do with OWL and sexuality education and power and structural injustice. So last Sunday, you probably know this, there were two options for entertainment at the halftime of the football game. One was directly provided by the NFL, which on the whole, the NFL does not strike me as woke particularly, but as wanting as many people as possible to stay there, keep watching, not miss 1 minute because the ads. And so the NFL did the smart thing. They looked around and they invited the artist with the most Grammys, the most popular guy at the moment, Bad Bunny. Any of you watched the show, by the way? Yeah, we all watched it. Okay. Yeah. What did you think? I loved it. Okay. And the other entertainment offering was from Turning Point USA of the late Charlie Kirk, who, when the artist chosen by the NFL was announced, was immediately offended and outraged at the possibility of entertainment coming in a different language and showing a different culture. So they created the all-American alt halftime show, a live-streamed, pre-recorded, lip-sync thing whose headliner was Kid Rock, one of the Trumpiest celebrities around, plus a handful of Ford truck commercial country singers that I don't know their names, and I don't care. I did not watch the Turning Point USA show, not even for the sake of doing research for this sermon. I don't need to. I've been around long enough to know who Kid Rock is and was and has always been. He is a creep whose music is crap. And anyway, I can make my point without giving Turning Point USA any more airtime. But I did watch the halftime show with Bad Bunny. Now, a few of his songs were explicit, and more about this in a minute. But for now, I just want to say that they didn't strike me as particularly lewd, even by Super Bowl halftime standards. So predictably, the next day, after presumably his intern translated some of the lyric, Representative Randy Fine that's his real name, wanted the FCC to fine Bad Bunny, the NFL, and NBC Universal for indecency. His claim likely has no merit, even looking at the FCC's most stringent definition of indecency, because what Bad Bunny said is neither indecent nor obscene by their standards. Also, we had a tweet, or whatever they're called, by President Trump about the halftime show. He said, absolutely terrible. I can't do Trump, okay? Absolutely terrible, one of the worst ever, all caps. Nobody understands a word this guy is saying, except people who know Spanish. And the dancing is disgusting, especially for young children who are watching from throughout the U.S. and all over the world. We already talked about Epstein, but he's named in those files. And he cried, but the children, oh my God. Which is rich considering, what is being revealed in the Epstein files. So what does any of this have to do with owl? A lot, actually. The owl assumptions tell us that pleasure is a good part of the human experience, that all bodies have the right to experience pleasure and joy, and that coercion is the thing that is bad in a sexual context or otherwise. So let's go back to the circles of sexuality. I'm obsessed. When people, usually conservatives, appeal to indecency, it has to do with items in the sexualization and sensuality circles mostly. But like I said before, it resides primarily with the values at the center. Because the circles can take positive or negative valence depending what you believe in and value. A person whose sexuality education taught them the bodies are shameful, that some people don't have agency or are even considered human, will always think that sensuality is obscene and sexualization is violent. Let that sink in. Always. Bad Bunny's songs are about heartbreak and seduction, but also about colonialism and blackouts in Puerto Rico. They celebrate the joy of dancing and the love of his land, and none of that is indecent. Even though the words are explicit, they are not coercive. In fact, one of the songs that was even in the set list for the halftime show is a women empowerment song. Forgive my Spanish. Yo perreo sola is a song about if a woman is at a club and wants to twerk by herself, men should let her. Okay? In the original, the song ends with the phrase, Ni una menos, which is a slogan from the anti-femicide movement, specifically the movement that brings awareness to the killing of trans women of color in Latin America. So, not indecent. Representative Fine and President Trump and others are attaching negative connotations to black and brown bodies expressing joy and delight. The twerking girls in the halftime show were twerking to that song. Their entire worldview, the worldview of the conservatives, of the people in power right now, is a power grab, and so they use sexuality and negative sexual connotations as a tool of the patriarchy that aims at exerting control over people. And control over people, power over people, is precisely what Bad Bunny's show was going against. This is a young man, young for me, from a colonized island, and he's telling the world that there is a better way. He is not saying it in an adversary way to Turning Point USA. He is just showing us where we can find this other way. He showed his home, his culture, his people. He showed us togetherness and love, literally marrying a couple during the halftime show, but also showing two men kissing and showing all the old people, all the abuelitos and abuelitas there dancing, kids. The whole setup spoke to me of safety and joy in community and delight in dancing. This, to me, was the 2026 version of the original Sesame Street, right? Or the neighborhood where Mr. Rogers lived, the place where we can have community and safety and delight and joy. This is the image of liberation where we free us with joy and delight, and where freedom begins with bodily autonomy. Our closing song is number 128, For All That Is Alive. Please rise as you're willing and able.
Our closing words come from activist and author Adrienne Marie Brown. Pleasure reminds us to enjoy being alive on purpose. Pleasure, embodied, connected pleasure, is one of the ways we know we are free, that we are always free, that we always have the power to co-create the world. Pleasure helps us move through the times that are unfair, through grief and loneliness, through the terror of genocide, or days when the demands are just overwhelming. Pleasure heals the places in our hearts and where our hearts and spirit get wounded. Pleasure reminds us that even in the dark, we are alive. Pleasure is a medicine for the suffering that is absolutely promised in life. Pleasure is the point. Feeling good is not frivolous. It is freedom. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace. Please enjoy the postlude, and then as your final act of worship, please turn and greet your neighbor.